Hey guys, welcome to Rosie's Dessert Spot. In this tutorial I'll be showing you how to make a mermaid tail themed cake. I'll be using acrylics to create this, so I've got some go-between, which is a really cool product that's kind of like baking paper cross cling film, and I'm taping down 4 corners to make sure that it doesn't move around in the plastic. And then working in between those corners, I'm applying the sticky tape to the wrap, and then I'm pulling on it and then sticking it down to make it nice and taut over the acrylic. Apply that onto a cake board with some buttercream, and then fill your cake in as normal. I'm using vanilla buttercream here with the recipe in the description box below. These are 6-inch cakes, 2 which have been cut in half to create 4 layers of cake. And here I'm just applying a crumb coat to trap in any crumbs. Go around the sides to make it smooth and clear up the top of your cake. I let mine rest in the freezer for 10 minutes before I added the final layer of frosting. So here I'm just adding it at the very top, clearing up the sides and then diagonally pressing the second acrylic disc over the top, and using some right angle rulers I'm making sure that they line up perfectly around the cake. Once that's all good, make sure that it's nice and straight on the top of the cake and not lopsided, and pop it into the freezer for 15 minutes. Then fill in the sides of your cake generously with buttercream. You could also use ganache for this as well. Start clearing down the sides and take note of where spaces might be missing of buttercream. Fill in those pockets and go around to smooth it down, clean up the top, and pop it into your freezer for another 15 minutes to set up. Once set, cut around the plastic that you take down to remove the disc, and then gently pop off that plastic. There will be little pockets at the very top that you'll need to fill in, and just do so like normal. The cake is really hard, so you won't be damaging the edges. Once that's all cleared up, pop it into a freezer again to make sure that it doesn't stick to your cake board. Pop another cake board on top, turn it upside down, and release the cake board from the bottom disc. Here I'm taking off the disc instead of the plastic, so I'm popping my knife underneath and lifting at 4 corners on the cake to make sure it doesn't pull off the edge of the buttercream. And once that's been removed, take off the plastic and attach a cake board with some buttercream. This is an 8-inch cake board that I've applied onto my cake. Turn it right side up again, remove the top, and let that rest in the fridge until it's ready to be decorated. I have 4 colours of fondant here: turquoise, electric purple and gold by Americolor Gel Food Colours. I'm applying some gel colour into it, and I'm not going to mix it in fully. I'm just kind of pulling the fondant and folding it in on itself. Now with all the rolls I've formed it into one log and I'm twisting. Fold it in half and twist again, and then form a ball of fondant. Apply some cornstarch over the top to make sure it doesn't stick to your counter, and roll it out to about 3 millimeters in thickness. Turn it on the other side. I always find with marbled fondant the other side always looks nicer. Drape it over your cake, and using a fondant smoothing tool, press out any air from the top and secure the top edges. Because they're really sharp, your fondant will likely, there's a better chance it'll rip at the top, so make sure that's secured. To place your fondant on the cake, spread out those pleats and just press onto your cake to make it stick. With the fondant smoother, secure the very bottom edge and snip off the excess. Don't throw that excess away, we'll be using it later. With 2 fondant smoothing tools, I'm just sort of making circle motions and pinching the fondant between the smoothers and creating a paint here with some gold edible paint and rose water. Using a brush, just following those strokes in the marbled pattern and setting that aside. In the meantime, I'm creating the tail for our cake. I've done so using marshmallow, butter and rice bubbles, and I have the recipe in the description box below. Melt in the microwave at 30-second bursts, and then toss in your rice bubbles. Mix it until it's combined and let it rest for 15 minutes, and pop it onto a 5-inch cake board. I've put some vegetable oil on my hands to make sure it doesn't stick to me, and I'm just pinching it between my fingers and between my palms, just squishing it till it's nice and tall and the shape that I like. I made it a bit more oval at the base to make it look a little bit more realistic, and I had the tail kind of bending backwards. Once you're happy with the shape, pop it into the freezer. And using a piece of paper that's been folded in half, draw on the side that is folded. Design half of your fin, cut it out, and then unfold it to create one whole fin that is identical side by side. Lay it over some fondant that's at least 4 to 5 millimeters thick, and cut around your template. I've used the back of my brush to indent some details on the fin, and then turn it around, and using a little bit of water, attach some skewers. I use 2 skewers. If you only use one, it will start dancing around on your tail, so 2 just ensures it doesn't move around. With some water, applying some fondant on the back to make sure that they stick on nicely, and let that rest for 2 days at least. Here I'm applying some buttercream on the tail, just to help it to look smoother under the fondant. And then using some baking paper that I folded, I'm using it as a scraper, and I'm scraping up the cake to make sure the buttercream is all smooth. And then that marbled fondant that we had before, I've rolled it to 3 millimeters of thickness again, and using the back of a 104 tip or any small piping tip, cut out your circles. Attach it onto your mermaid tail with a little bit of water. And notice the pattern here, they're all side by side, and then the next layer starts in between 2 of the others from the top circle. I've used turquoise, gold, and electric purple as well. At the very bottom, cut your circles in half and stick half circles at the very, very base. Pop on your fin, and then I'm just kind of marking on the top of the cake where the cake board is, so I know where to put my dowels. I added 3 dowels, and this just supports the weight of the top cake. Attach it with a little bit of buttercream, and then to make our pink sand, I've got desiccated coconut in a plate with electric purple gel color and a little bit of water, mixing that through and then adding in sprinkles and sugar confetti. Mix that through and sprinkle it onto the top of your cake. I'm covering the cake board with this, and I'm also adding some at the bottom of my cake as well. I was sort of wishing here I used a larger cake board at the base, so don't make the same mistake I did. Once that's done, I just popped an acrylic name on the front of the cake, and that's it, you're done. That's how you create a mermaid tail themed cake. Thank you to everybody who has put through a request asking for a demonstration how to make this little guy. This is my take on it anyway. There's a lot of different versions online, but I hope this tutorial was useful for you. And if you do give it a go, let me know, show me some photos. I love seeing your photos, so share the love. And that's it. I will catch you again next week.